Hello everybody, how's it going today? Glowplasma231 here, back again today to talk about Tenmaku Cinema, chapter number 18. So yeah, today we're talking about chapter number 18. This chapter is titled Day 2, Last Day, because of course, last week we had the chapter which was a beach filming trip, Day 1. So it makes sense that they're calling it Day 2, the last day. Even though, I figured you just, keep it, beach location trip, Day 2, final day. I don't know, that would make more sense to me. But that's what Shun Saeki and artist, Shun Saeki is the artist, and Yuta Sakuda is the story writer. So it's Yuta Sakuda's job to say, yeah, let's choose a chapter title. I really doubt that Shun Saeki gets much play in that. But like I said, Tenmaku Cinema, chapter number 18. This is a very sort of bittersweet chapter because if you don't know, I am behind on chapters. Behind by about 3 right now. And I have 3 days until Sunday when the new Shonen Jump chapters get released. And on Sunday, that will be the final chapter of Tenmaku Cinema. If you've not heard this news, yes, Tenmaku Cinema has been canceled early, and it will be ending in 4 more chapters from this one right here. So, you're going to be getting a Tenmaku Cinema video every single day so we can talk about the last chapter on the day it releases. But, to get there, we gotta talk about some other good old Tenmaku Cinema story, because for as much as it sucks it's being canceled, this is really, really good. So, we pretty much think about where we ended off last chapter was with Kurai, who could not get her lines out, the lines about her mother and all the issues she was having, right? And at the end, Tenmaku sort of just came in and said, hey, surpass the script I wrote, director Shinichi, right? Pretty much telling him, hey, you can do this, I know you can, and you're going to surpass me, right? The script that I wrote, you are going to show it what it's made of, and pretty much give it a vision that I couldn't from beyond the grave, pretty much, right? Which is a bit different than what he said last chapter, which was just surpass me, director Shinichi, and here on the first page of this chapter, it's surpass the script I wrote. So I don't know if that's just the artist and author sort of backpedaling what they said last time, maybe we do have 2 more weeks, let's see, right? So I don't really know there, but that's pretty much the whole deal where we start off this chapter, is that just reiteration of surpass the script I wrote. So as all this is going on, we pretty much see that we are cutting to the end of the day now, right? All of the guys are inside, and pretty much they're all in for tonight. There's not much going on. We see that all of the guys are in a room, or at least Akitsu, Bito, and Shino are all in a room together, and they see Himeki walking, or I don't know if they see it. I think the window's just open, and Himeki is walking outside through the monastery or hotel that they're staying at. And Shino just sort of mentions, hey, is Himeki okay? I mean, she suddenly just said she couldn't say her lines, right? And Bito's just well, we shot 10 takes until the sun went down. I mean, I wish we could help her, but we're all just really amateurs, right? And he's we don't even know what's holding her back, right? And we sort of cut back to earlier in the day whenever it was getting to dusk and they couldn't really film anymore with the light they had. And Hajime is just all right, everybody, let's call today. We left tomorrow morning open just in case, which is really good planning for a group of middle schoolers. You have to junior high, yeah, I think they're in junior high, and it's yeah, these kids are 14, so not only being able to film an entire movie on their own, having all the skills to do it, but also having good scheduled things. I mean, in the beginning of the series, we always heard that Hajime was very smart, and he always had to study for his exams and things and whatnot, so it's obvious that Hajime just isn't a movie nerd. He's also a very smart guy to be we left tomorrow morning open just in case. As long as we get a good take before a train ride home, we should all be okay, right? And we see the final thing he says is all right, let's get some rest for tomorrow, all of us need to get a good night's sleep, and he looks over to Cry and is hey, especially you. So as it all sort of just continues on, we get some more of Akitsu dialogue, and he's just talking to the other guys. It's well, we just need to leave it to the director. Hajime seems to be all in control of the situation, right? We go over to outside looking at Hajime, who's in front of a vending machine, obviously getting a soft drink or something out of it, right? And as he's throwing the can of rain, can away into trash can. He sort of has this like breakdown. He says like, oh no, what do I do now? What do I do now? I mean, how do I make this shoot work tomorrow? We've got to do it tomorrow. There's no coming back out here. We've got to make this work tomorrow, right? And we pretty much see that Tenmaku, the ghost, is flying around here with him, just like, hey, you seem pretty confident in control back there, Hajime. And Hajime is like, yeah, you're right. I've just got to calm down. This isn't really much of a problem. We'll figure it out. Just have to calm down. And he's just like, how do I help Karai? How do I help her say that line? And we see he's sort of walking back to hotel, or maybe just walking out around the surrounding area. I mean, they are right next to the beach, so it makes sense if he's just walking around to see the water and maybe get some inspiration of some kind, right? But as he's walking around on the sidewalk, there's the concrete sort of patrician that comes off of the side and sort of just juts up. And as he's walking down the sidewalk, he sees Karai actually sitting on that concrete petition, and he's like, oh, hey, Karai, why are you here? As he sort of just recognizes Hajime, and she dashes away. I mean, she bolts away, right? And Hajime's like, she's running away? Well, what's going on here, right? And he's like, hey, where are you going all alone at night? Like, you don't need to do this. It's dangerous out. And she's just like, I know, but I'm so sorry. It's all my fault, right? And we even see Tenmaku in the background. Once again, the flying ghost in the room is just like, man, even Himeki gets kind of freaked out sometimes, which I wonder why they think she wouldn't. I mean, okay. Yeah, sure, Tenmaku. Thank you for your contribution. But as it all just keeps going on, Hajime's just like, hey, I'm not angry. Come on, we can talk about this. Your last line in that scene, the I'm home. Nagisa was shy and withdrawn. Her mother's words put a curse on her, but she learned how to act cheerful and confident, even after her mother disappeared, because she believed if she did, her mother would come back one day. But her hope was betrayed. Far away in Tokyo, her mother had made a new family. On a pedestrian bridge into falling rain, Nagisa decides to let go of her mother. It connects to the last scene whenever she says, I'm home to Shimada. And Hajime just sort of sums it up all like after he gives that long-winded speech, he's like, in other words, the line symbolizes her liberation from her mother. If we can figure out why you can't say it, then we can find a situation. And as he just says all this, we see that Karai immediately stops running, right? And sort of just like comes to like either a walking pace or just like standing still. And we see it sort of just takes all of Hajime not to immediately slam into her, to like not knock her over. Because I mean, he doesn't want to hurt Karai. I mean, not at all. So it's just like he's got to slow down. And that's pretty much the whole moment there as Karai just sort of starts to talk. But before I talk about like whatever she's going to say, this is a very interesting moment here because it's sort of Hajime giving off a lot of the plot of The Shore. Because one of the problems with The Shore is that we really have gotten small snippets of the story as it's been going on, right? We've been getting the very small snippets of, okay, we're going to have 5 characters in the series. There's some scenes at the beach. There's a scene in a pedestrian bridge. And as we've been going on, we've been building on, okay, Nagisa has his friend Shimada who she opens up to. She got this friend named Ina who she also opens up to, right? And she has problems with her mother. So it's all been building on this. And then here, we sort of get a lot of the plot just all dumped at once, right? And it's pretty much in the vein of Hajime not only trying to get Karai to come back, but also trying to give the audience, like, all right, this is what's happening in the shore. This is why this series is good. But as he's just doing all this, like I said, Karai just pauses up, right? And I guess Hajime does run into her because he sort of makes a little note of, man, that's a really strong core she has, right? But Karai's just like, hey, the truth is, I know why I can't say that line. As we see Hajime's is like, oh, wait, she does? Then we can fix it. But before he can really say anything and just he has an expression on his face, we sort of cut back to a flashback, right? And it's a flashback with Karai's mother, who, if I'm not mistaken, just goes unnamed in this chapter. So she will just be called Karai's mother. So as everything just keeps going on, she's sort of berating Karai as Karai's just like kneeling on the ground, just like, or a very young Karai, probably elementary school age, like maybe 6 or 7 if I had to guess. But it's pretty much just like, hey, why can't you do your lessons properly? Don't disappoint your mother. Sakura is your age and she got a role with lines. Are you satisfied with how these things are? And she's just like, try harder. I know you can do it. As we see the little Karai just like crying here on the ground. And we sort of just get narration from Karai just going, at first I didn't love acting, but bit by bit I learned to get into my role. I met director Yukio and the others, and eventually acting became fun. As we sort of see like this little shot of director Yukio, and if I'm not mistaken, the assistant director, whose name was Minori, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what it was. I don't really feel like going back and fact-checking myself on that. But we sort of just get this thing where it's just like, so yeah, director Yukio and Minori, and whenever she met them and all the rest of that production crew, she really started to enjoy acting because she enjoyed working with them. And as we see everything this is going on, we see that Karai sort of, or Karai's mother or somebody just comes and puts like, hey, they want you for this role, Himeki, right? Somebody gives her a script and she reads it, and the script is just called Downtown Love Story. Sure, I mean, it's probably not that important. I mean, it could be if this was going to be a longer series, but not to get into that. We see Karai reads the script and is like, man, that's such an exciting story, and what a really fun character. I want to be in this movie. And we see that whenever she gets home, her mother has obviously seen the script and Karai has asked her to be in the movie, but she's just like, no, this is an important time for you. If you do a small-time movie like this, people will look down on you. It's not even the lead role, so you're out of the question entirely. And her mother's just like, Himeki, you just do what your mother tells you. You understand. And she's just like, yes. And we pretty much sort of get into some more modern dialogue as we see that Karai is actually saying this to Hajime in the present. Just saying, when I first read The Shore, I thought that if I could pull off this role, something would change. But I guess I'm still just playing the part of Himeki Karaki, the actress my mother wants to see. As we see this really weird demented image of Karai in like a dress, sort of on like for a Broadway performance or something, and like the puppeteer strings all above her, sort of just moving up her arms and moving up her head, right? And we see Karai's just like, I don't think I can embody Nagisa's liberation from her mother because she doesn't have that liberation of her own. And Hajime sort of sees this, and he sort of thinks back to something that Tenmaku had said earlier a few chapters ago, which was something along the lines of, the director and actor must search together for a certain something beyond what the certain script imagines, right? And Hajime's just like, oh, that's it. And he runs up to Karai and sort of just puts his hand on her shoulders and sort of just like, that's good. The reality is that she can't let go that easily. That is the Nagisa that you can play, right? And he's just like, don't be limited by the script. Tomorrow, I want to show you what you're feeling now in front of the cameras. And with that, we cut over to tomorrow morning. It's the next day, so I guess it's beach location trip day 3, final day, which means that the entire title of this chapter is a lie, because day 2 is not the final day, unless it's saying day 2 and last day, if that comma is like splitting off, saying, all right, day 2 is something on its own, and then the last day. Because the way that reads is it's day 2, the last day is day 2. But that doesn't make sense, so I don't know. but to get into what's actually happening here, it is day 3 now, which, I don't need to get started on that again. But we pretty much see that in the morning, we see Bito and Akitsu here, not Bito, it's Shino. Yes, Shino and Akitsu sort of standing here. Akitsu, of course, has the boom pole, and Shino just has a camera. And then Hajime has the main camera, and she's like, all right, ready and start. As there's the scene with Nagisa standing here, and we sort of see inside of Karai's head, and just like, I have to say it. No, I just can't do it. As we see Bito, who is obviously playing Shimada, is here, and we see that Karai is sort of just standing here and is looking down to the ground, and we see that Bito just walks up and is like, hey, or Shimada, Bito playing the role of Shimada, whatever. It's like, hey, welcome back. As we see that Karai just looks up and is like, and we sort of see that she sort of just pauses and says, I'm home, and sort of just brushes her hair back with her hand behind her ear. And we see everybody sort of just realizes that this is great at this moment. Even Tenmaku, we sort of see an expression of him, which is just like, oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty big, right? But pretty much at this point, Hajime is like, all right, cut. And he looks over and he just says, hey, that was great now, he says. He's just like, that's a wrap. As we pretty much see that, yeah, that's this section of the movie done. All the beach scenes are completed. And we see that Hajime walks up to crying as she's just like sort of breathing really heavily and sort of having just like a hard time sort of talking. And he's just like, hey, just in case you're still having trouble getting all these words out, I asked Bito to say welcome back to help you with the flow, right? And he's just like, hey, your expression here is really good. The natural hesitation. We can see with the real Nagisa that she would actually probably smile like this. And Cry is just like, but it's the scene that you've been thinking in your head all this time, Shinichi. I mean, acting and the line, I mean, they're two different things. But Hajime is just like, hey, that's not a problem. The guy who wrote the script is satisfied with the ending. As we see that Cry sort of is just like, but you wrote the script, right? But of course, Hajime is sort of looking over to the vestige of Tenmaku, who is sort of floating around. And pretty much we see that Tenmaku is just sort of thinking, like, if the director and lead were other people, maybe they would have put off the final scene in the script. But only they could create the reality of this depiction, pretty much saying that only Hajime and Cry could create this version of the shore. As he's pretty much like, it's a true chemical reaction that lives beyond the baseline of the script. A certain something beyond what I imagined. They did a great job of getting there together. So, and I really sort of like that note, is it's pretty much just like, yeah, Tamaki's like, if anybody else was filming this movie but Karai and Hajime, this movie would have not turned out the same. And while, yes, it probably could have been better, it wouldn't have had the emotion and that certain something beyond a script that I always wanted to see that these two gave, right? And this is a really awesome sort of notion. But we see as everybody's back in town, they're at the train station, and it's a big deal to where everybody's like Sheena's like, all right, we're back, right? And Noxie's like, all right, all that's left now is the pedestrian crossing in the rain. And we see that Bito is here. He's like, but can we really do a rainy shoot? And I just love Bito because his hair is now back to his like a black on the sides and like white up top. It's just like, I really don't think that's a sustainable hairstyle to continuously be dyeing and undying your hair. I mean, he's had to do it at least like probably 15 times throughout the process of shooting this movie. So it's like, how many times has he dyed and undyed his hair? But as everything just keeps going on, we see that Karai is just sort of like running away. She's like, all right, guys, I've got to get home. See you later. And Hajime's like, all right, we can do it. I'll contact you guys when the time is right. They all wave to Karai as Karai gets her taxi and is holding the script of the shore. And we see that she gets back home to her apartment. And as she walks in the door, there's a voice in the room that says, welcome home. And Karai just looks up and is like, Mother, why are you here? But she's just like, I got back to Japan early. Well, Hameki, you didn't have work today, so where did you go with that bag? And she's sort of like, well, do you have anything to say? As we sort of see like a shot of like the door once again with Karai not in like the door on the other side of the room. And yeah, that's where we end the chapter off. Now, this is a great chapter for all intents and purposes. It begins off with sort of Karai having issues and Hajime helping her through that. And then they film the final scene and it's really good. We get seeds sown in about Nagisa's mother, or not, Karai's mother, and the issues that they may have. All to sort of keep building up as we sort of keep ramping everything up to her being able to say the line. And eventually, they're like, okay, we're almost on this movie. We have one more scene to film before Karai gets home and her mother is there, who we obviously see as an antagonizing force in her life. So this was just a really awesome chapter. I do think this would have greatly benefited if we had more extended chapters, but of course with the way the series is ending, this was still a beautiful chapter of Tenmaku Cinema, really just showing the magic of this series and why I've and many other people have really enjoyed it so much. I mean, it may just be about making a movie, but it's also, I think, about so much more with that. And with that, I really don't have too much more to say. I'll be back tomorrow with Tenmaku Cinema, chapter number 19. This was 18 once again, aptly called day 2 last day, which that just pisses me off the more I think about it. But yeah, this was a really awesome chapter, and next time we'll be sort of getting the idea of, okay, what is Karai and how are Karai and her mother going to get along with the whole idea of the shore? So yeah, that's really all I have to say here. And with that, thank you all for watching this video very much. If you want to hear some of my other thoughts on other Tenmaku Cinema chapters, I've got plenty of other videos on the channel. I started at chapter 3, so I've got pretty much chapter 3 up to chapter 18 right now. So go check those out if you actually enjoyed this. And if you did enjoy it, I hope you won't mind subscribing to the channel. It really helps a lot. Sharing the video with a friend, or even commenting or do any of that stuff that we all ask you to do. And with that, I really don't have too much else to say. Great chapter of Tenmaku Cinema, and I'll be back tomorrow with chapter 19. This will be Glowplasma231, out.